Live here. I can hear your dog. Okay. Okay, so I think we are live.
Cool. Chihuahua is going into lockdown.
Okay. Yes, I could share it this time. Fantastic. All right, so sorry. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Arayeh, your rapid transformational coach in the areas of life coaching, parenting, and relationship. And I have one mission, and that is to empower you to live your authentic self and your full potential with ease, grace, and joy. So if you have followed my platform, you've seen a couple of videos in the past several weeks that I've had guests, and we have been talking about digital screening only because I think it's the elephant in the house. Is such a predicament in a lot of families, including myself and the family of my clients and students. So I've had guests, some of the guests, they advocate for no social media, no iPhone, and no gaming up until the age of 18, which is, wow, that's fabulous. That's my ideal. But we are having a hard time. I myself and my family having a hard time to make that possible. Other guests, they advocate for more monitored, more limited amount of screening in the house, and they empower parents and kids to have kind of a self-awareness and self-empowerment, so they can limit their amount and know what's going on inside, so they can just say, okay, no more. And to conclude this video series, I have invited Titania, who is the Chief Parenting Officer of Bark. That is an award-winning protected digital dashboard featured in CNN, CNBC, Forbes, and many other platforms. So I want, hi, Titania.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Let me fix that.
I think when you changed it.
1 second. Can you hear me now?
Technology.
I love technology.
No, not yet. No. Okay.
Let's see. Okay, now.
So anyone out there, if you're watching this video, share it in your group and leave a comment. I can, hopefully I'm gonna put it in such a way that I can see the question, so I can read it for Titania.
Can you hear me now?
Let's see. Yes, I can see it this way. I still can't hear you.
Okay.
Okay. So
hello.
Oh.
Hello.
And so I can read it for Titania.
Hello.
Can you hear me now? Oh, you're right. Okay. It was my fault. Okay, I actually muted. So, yay! Jody says we hear you. So sorry. I thought it was the AirPods' fault, but no, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, Jody.
I work in tech. Why can't I figure this out?
I'm so sorry. My goodness. There you go. We're talking about technology. You're all like, oh.
Great.
Oh my goodness. So thank you so much for leaving the comment, Jody. So I want Titania to talk about herself first. I want her to talk about her own journey. And if you've had any struggles, I'm assuming you might have, you can tell us, or if you're really lucky and you didn't have any struggles with screaming at home, but you can talk about yourself, your own hero's journey, and what drove you to this company. And also, I want you to talk about the company's manifesto. What do they generally think about digital screening when it comes to its addictive properties as well as other harms? Yes, so, and we can go from there.
Great. Yeah. So first, I'll start with just a teeny bit about me. I am Titania Jordan. As you mentioned, I'm the Chief Parenting Officer of Bark.us, which is a tech company that keeps children safer online and in real life. And I'm also a mom to a son who is almost 12 years old. And he does have a smartphone. He has a gaming console, multiple different kinds, actually. And so I'm right in the thick of it with all of you. Um, Backing up to Bark and the manifesto of Bark, I love to tell the story of how it came to be. And so Bark Technologies was founded by a dad of two boys who was actually working at Twitter at the time. Yeah. And so he already obviously very tech savvy and social media savvy. And his boys were at the age where they could access devices. And he realized there was no good way to keep his kids safer online with what existed out there. And so he took a risk, left Twitter, started Bark, and that was 5.5 years ago. And it's incredible because we now protect over 5 million children across the United States. And we're in over 2,600 school districts across the nation. So good risk. The risk paid off. And more importantly, is that we have helped to save children's lives. That's what this is all about. The suicidal ideation alerts, the online predators, the school shootings we've prevented, all of those things would not have been brought to parents or caregivers' attention had they not been using Bark. So that's, really compelling, and I always like to surface that.
That's fabulous. Love that. So, so generally, what is their motto? What do they think, the founder of the company, what do they think about these devices? What are they? So here's my struggle, personal struggle. I do believe that our children's brains are not developed to such a point that is ready for these kind of games. And for example, Fortnite, my son loves to play Fortnite, and guess what, that's 14 plus, and my son is 11. So I know 9-year-olds who play PUBG, and that's, I think, 16 plus. So even 14, even 16, I do believe our brains are not really developed yet to be so immersed in such addictive activities. What do they think about that? I know that it's inevitable in some families, but I'd like to know their opinion about this.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up. One thing to keep in mind for all of us is that we are the first generation of parents who are parenting in this tech world. No parents in the history of humans, as long as humans have existed, has ever had to deal with this element of not only in real life exposure to, the sun and bicycles and bicycle helmets and, all those sort of things, right? But also what lives within these devices, and also just, as you mentioned, the screen time. And so we all need to give ourselves a little bit of grace because we're all just figuring this out. We also need to look to the science and speak about that with our children openly. If you just feel that it's not good for your child and you say you can't have that, that's absolutely one way to be a parent. But I can guarantee you that you'll have better results and less friction if you can explain to your children the why. I've told my son these devices and games, etc., stimulate a part of your brain that's the same part of your brain that gets excited when you eat candy and people that, are addicted to alcohol, when they drink alcohol, drugs, whatever, that's that same part of your brain. It's the pleasure center of your brain. And so we have to decide as a family, are we going to be in control? Jackson, are you going to be in control, or is the game going to control you? Is the device going to control you? And so just talking about the science around it is really, really helpful to frame that conversation. It's also important to reduce the stigma around mental health. I have frequent conversations with my family, and I recommend doing this with your family, just around the fact that if you're in front of a screen for too long, if you're not physically active, it can make you feel sad. It can make your brain sick. It can make your heart sick. Depending on the child's age, they may or may not understand the concept of depression or anxiety, but they can understand not feeling okay. And if they know that it's okay to not be okay, that's great. And there's also things you can do, like put the phone down, get outside, read a book, listen to music. That's where we need to start, because to your point, humans weren't meant to be sedentary, for 8 hours a day, especially not children. And so it is critical that your children take, I'd say, a break. If they've been in front of a screen or a device for 2 hours, you got to take a break. That's the cutoff point. After 2 hours, you got to go do something else. You can come back maybe in a little bit, but that's just too long for you to be still and in front of a screen.
Mm-hmm. So 2 hours at a time. So in my family, like so far, as I said, I tried to have no screen, no gaming, no social media for a week or so. And we did, we were good because we were kind of not in the house and we're active outside. So it was okay at that time. But when we're in this house and then I have to do work and my husband has to do work and just we get pulled in. So the cutoff is 2 hours only, like the game. But so when you're saying, for example, 2 hours, if I say that to my son, he will say, okay, I'm gonna take a break, come back in 5 minutes and then go more 2 more hours. Believe me.
I mean, any break is helpful, because it's the neurons in your brain are hopefully rewiring to a different sort of stimuli. And so 5 minutes, great. Can you make it 10 minutes? Can you make it 20 minutes? Just let's gamify. Kids love games. Make it a challenge. It's, there's just so much beauty and wonder in the world, and there's so many things to learn, and there's a much bigger world outside of these devices and these games and these apps. So it's important to expose your child to as much as possible outside of those things. That said, as they get older, when we're not in a pandemic and reliant so much on these things for both virtual learning and socialization, it does become a critical part of their development and the way that they connect with their peers. And so it's hard to keep that in mind. I am so happy that my son has friends, and would I love for him to be playing with them in real life in the backyard? Yes. But for right now, they're all FaceTiming each other. And I'm okay with that because he's connecting with his peers. Now, if they're doing that at 2 a.m., not good for a variety of reasons, because children need sleep. And again, it's back to the science. I tell my son, if you don't sleep, you will not grow. You want to get taller and bigger and stronger, right? Well, you need sleep. Your body needs time to repair itself. That's when it does so at night. And also, if you don't get enough sleep, it can actually make you depressed and anxious the next day. And you don't want that. It's not worth it.
Yeah. And we talked about this last week, that even the games, because they're usually, especially with the boys, they're fighting. So the brain thinks they're actually really fighting, because the mind doesn't know the difference between fake and real. So we go to fight or flight, and that will be the time that our body is not growing, because we are on fight or flight. So we want to limit that time as much as we can. So have you seen The Social Dilemma?
I have. And not only have I seen it, but I actually spoke with the director of the movie about specifically the impact to children, because he focused on a more macro level and adult issues and political unrest and the advertising aspects of it and the use of information. Whereas I had the honor of being featured, and Bark had the honor of being featured in another documentary that came out 1 week before The Social Dilemma, but not on Netflix, called Childhood 2.0, which focused on this exact thing. What is childhood like in the year 2000 and beyond? It's so much different than before. And what are the issues that are presenting themselves to our children? And how do we deal with them as a society, as a government, as parents, etc.? So we had a great conversation, and it's fascinating. All of this is so fascinating, especially, given what's going on right now in the world and with politics and how people can be influenced and potentially by misinformation. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. All right. So can you just leave that the name of the documentary in the comments so people can watch it later? Fantastic. Later.
Another thing too, I'm sorry, there's so much to talk about. I'm so excited. You may or may not have Netflix subscription to see The Social Dilemma, but good news for everybody is that Childhood 2.0 is free. You can watch it without a Netflix subscription because it's free for anybody to watch on YouTube, or you can go to childhood2movie.com and watch it there for free. It's about an hour and a half, and it'll blow your mind.
Fantastic. I'm gonna have the kids watch it too, because for Social Dilemma, I told them you were sitting here. That's I would even go back and have them listen again. And they're like, Mom, you're like, they're saying the same thing you're saying. It's repeating. And no, you're listening to what other people are saying. They're like, I've been saying, I'm your mom. You don't listen to me. Now you see that. Oh, someone just left the link. Thank you so much. So now a little technical question. I like to know, because I know the founder of Bark.us has been doing a lot of research and he's tech savvy, as you said. But what is the recommendation about this? Should parents know what's going on in a teenager's phone? Should they check the text? Because some parents would think that's violating their privacy, and they have uneasy feelings about it. And some people say, it's my child's my business. It's not my child's business, it's my business because she's my child. So what is the recommendation around that? I know it's kind of I don't know.
It's a loaded question.
It's a loaded question, but I'd like to, maybe your own opinion, maybe not. Yeah.
So I can give you both Bark's opinion and my opinion. I'll start with my opinion. And that's, it's really up to each individual family as to how they want to parent and watch over their children's both digital life and real life. When your child goes on their first date, are you going to drive in the car behind them and follow them everywhere they go? Maybe. I would say that's a bit much, but no judgment. Well, maybe a little bit, but that's, everybody has their barometer. Same thing, if, would you read your child's diary? Well, hopefully not. Hopefully they have a safe place to put down their thoughts and hopes and dreams and just record their life. However, let's say your child lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time, or seems very withdrawn or dismissive, their grades are dropping, and you can't get information out of them. Well, maybe their diary is the only place that might give you insight into what's going on with them. So it's not a black and white issue. It's not an easy call there. You have to, as a parent, protect your child. Your job is to keep them safe in the real world and online. But your job is also not to push them so far away that they don't want to have a relationship with you when they're old enough to understand why you did the things they did. And your job is also, because there's so many of them that we have, to help them become a responsible digital native. So if you just tell them, no, 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 because I said so, they're not going to learn. But if you navigate it with them, hey, I saw that you posted that video on TikTok with that hashtag. And do you know what that hashtag means? Because if you don't, you need to know that it means this. And you probably don't want to put that out into the world. Here's why. One, let's delete it together because, I want you to be able to get into college. So
Mhm.
it's walking alongside your child, and every child is different. That's a very, very long way of answering your question. And a more succinct way to answer that, again, personal view, is you need to be able to trust your child, but kids are kids. Their frontal lobes are not fully formed until they're in their early 20s. So good kids are going to make bad choices. Your kids' friends are going to make bad choices. And so you can either be completely ignorant to what is going on in their lives, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and, hope that they come out of it unscathed, knowing that they're going to hit a few bumps in the road and learn some lessons. Um, or you can have a balance and use a technology like Bark that will alert you to the most serious things, but let them have their privacy for the most part.
Okay.
So that was my personal philosophy. Where Bark stands on this, and so real quick, if if I feel that there's a problem, um, I will I will look at my child's phone, um, because he's 11 and there's a lot of bad in the world. But do I need to because I have Bark? No. And is that something that I should be doing every single day? I think that's just way too much. Okay, now on to Bark. The whole reason Bark exists is to have that balance between parent and child that is a healthy one. So Bark will connect to your children's devices and accounts, social media, email, text messages, etc. And its algorithm is going to scan, monitor, and send an alert when there is an issue. So you as a parent do not get full unfettered access to all of the children's everything. Um, but you will get an alert, let's say if your child is being cyberbullied, or if your child has been contacted by an online predator, or if your child expresses thoughts of suicide or depression. That's when a Bark alert comes into effect. And I think anyone, child or adult, would say, you know what? Your parent probably needs to know about that.
I love that I asked that question because that was a great segue for to because I didn't know. I'm not using Bark yet, but now with your explanation, I'm gonna go ahead and use it. So you just have yourself a client now. So so you mentioned something. You said okay, that hashtag that you use. So you either have to monitor the TikTok, but in this case, the Bark is actually sending you a message.
Yes, Bark will alert
Oh.
when your child has posted something, received something, encountered something inappropriate. And every platform is different. Um, you know, Apple devices and the iOS operating system um, is a bit cumbersome sometimes, meaning that because of their policies, no one can monitor certain things with iOS. So Bark cannot monitor TikTok if your child has an iOS device, but Bark can monitor TikTok if your child has an Android device. So if you're wondering what the best first phone is for your child, it's an Android, not an iPhone. Um, what Bark can do with regards to TikTok and iOS, however, is just block access. So, my son has an iPhone. I do let him have the TikTok app. That's another conversation for another time. But at 10 p.m., I can go into Bark. I can toggle access off, and then he can't access TikTok, until I allow it again.
Mm-hmm. Can you also set in like what iOS has, for example, 1 hour uptime?
So you can set time limits. I like to set it so that he can't access, really anything after 10 o'clock at night because he needs to sleep. And then he is an early riser, but before 6 a.m., it's not necessary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're saying that Bark works with Samsung?
Yes, Samsung, Android, Amazon Kindle, Apple iPhones,
Oh,
iPad.
iPhone. So it does work with iPhone.
It does work with iPhone. I'm just saying that specifically for TikTok, since we're talking about TikTok, uh, Bark is not going to alert you specifically about dangers on TikTok if your child has an iPhone, but it will if your child has an Android. But what Bark will do regarding TikTok and iPhones is allow you to set time limits on it.
Oh, okay, I get it. All right. I wanted to ask you a question. I completely escaped. Ah.
It happens all the time.
I have so many things in my mind right now. I have a question here for you. Someone left a question. Does Bark have this information on their website? How can I get more support through Bark as a parent?
How can I get more support through Bark as a parent? Okay. That is such a loaded question because we have so many resources. So I'm glad you asked. First of all, we have a Facebook group that you can join, totally free. You don't even have to be paying for Bark or use Bark to be in this group. It's called Parenting in a Tech World, and it's a group of over 95,000 parents who are talking about these things all the time, all night, all day, every day. And it's just such a great place, and it's a really great source of support because we need it. We also have a blog, which is, again, totally free. You don't have to use Bark to read the blog. We have an amazing team of writers and researchers that are staying up to date on the latest trends, what you need to know, what does that emoji mean? And what do I need to know about Fortnite and TikTok and Discord? It's just a great resource, and we can drop a link to that. It's bark.us/blog. We also have this really cool thing that is also free called the Bark-O-Matic, which is like a machine that you tell it, what your family's tech setup is, and then it'll spit out the results for how you can make it as safe as possible. So you tell the Bark-O-Matic, which is barkomatic.com, I have Xfinity cable service provider and 2 iPhones and an iPad, and my kid plays Fortnite. And then the Bark-O-Matic will tell you all the different parental control options and setups that you have at your disposal, which is really, really, really helpful. We also have an amazing team. We call them the Family Online Safety Specialists. So when you do sign up for a Bark account, you basically have the support team, that you can email anytime, and they can help walk you through whatever, you might have a challenge with. There's also a book, you can see it behind me right there, called Parenting in a Tech World, which I co-authored with my colleague, Matt McKee, who's also a dad, to really, I know that you probably have so many questions, and there's, not even enough time in this Facebook Live to go over all of them. So that's why this book exists. That's why the Facebook group exists, and that's why Bark exists. And then specific to the Bark product, if you do have Bark and you're using it for your family and you do get an alert, we as a company don't want to just give you the problem. Like, hey, your kid's being cyberbullied. Good luck with that. We're actually going to send you best recommended next steps for how to deal with the problem. We have tapped into experts and the leading professionals in the field of child health and wellness to help us create these guidelines.
Beautiful. That's fantastic. So you mentioned something about when I asked you about violating privacy, and you said something about respect, connection. And I think that's so important to kind of highlight here, because number one thing, in my opinion, as a conscious parent coach, is to have that connection with the kids, to be able to kind of make them create a safe haven for them to be who they are, and they're not afraid of us, because if they lie, if they cheat, it's just a sign that they're afraid. They want to do something, but their autonomy is violated and they cannot do that, so they're going to find other ways to do it. So we want to avoid that. I think the number one thing, the fundamental requirement for having a good relationship with a child and for them to succeed and thrive, is to have that really connected relationship with them, so they can be who they are, they can confide in you, and then we can use all these tools to protect them even further. So first comes trust, first comes connectedness, that genuine and authentic, and that fearless kind of relationship that we can with our children. And And also, I think it's also so important to go about this app or any other restriction that we might have to kind of work with them, work alongside them, right? Come up with win-win solutions. That should be our attitude, to have win-win solutions. So it's not going to be, because my son, he's 11, as I said, but because I always talk about these things, he says, oh, I don't have any authority, you have all the authority. He uses these words, right? So we don't want them to feel this way. We want them to feel, and I keep telling them, it's not about authority, it's about safety, it's about your health. So as you said, it's so important to communicate with our children, tell them what's going on. It's really a dopamine rush. It's really that addictive kind of attitude that we have towards screen, and we're so addicted to the piece of information that we get, that I don't know, that swipe that we have in social media. Just whoosh, there's a rush of dopamine because we're seeing new information. That's how our brain gets addicted. So explain these to them so we can come up with a solution together, and then on top of that we can protect them even further, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, this was beautiful. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. This was brilliant. Thank you so much for having this service, because it gives parents an ease of mind a little bit. And I know I've been researching a little bit about other threats that are online, such as human trafficking. There are all those things, and this can really prevent those things. And suicide, as you mentioned, there are tons of other dark things that out there that we don't want to even think about, but this service can actually prevent it, right? Yeah.
That's right. Bark will alert you when your child has encountered some pretty tough things, give you next steps for how to address. And if you think it's not going to happen to your child, think again. If it's not them, it's their friends. And a great piece of advice I just saw recently was, whatever age you think you need to speak to your child about XYZ issue, let's just say pornography, subtract 2 years, and that's the age you need to have the conversation with them, because they are being exposed to all of these things at a much younger age than we were, and then that we might think. So earlier, often, let them know you're a safe place too. If they do come to you with something, please don't let the first thing you do be to take away their access or punish them. Praise them for coming to you, because it shows that they trust you and they're extending that bridge, and hopefully that's a lifelong relationship builder.
Yes, thank you so much, Titania. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hope to see you again.
Yes, thank you for having me. Y'all stay healthy.
Thank you. You too. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.